ये अच्छा सॉरी, मैंने कनेक्ट किया हुआ है।
हाँ, फिर क्लास खत्म होने के बाद वो मेटल के क्लास नोट भेज देगा कुछ।
वो मैंने भेजे हुए वैसे, उस पर देखो।
वो एंड तक है सर।
मेरे ख्याल से एंड तक है। ठीक है।
नहीं जैसे वो आई बिलीव डिकम्पोजिशन नहीं है इसके अंदर।
डीकम्पोजिशन नहीं है।
नहीं।
ये है का बाकी सारे, अच्छा सुनो। ठीक है। चलो एटीपी स्टार्ट करते हैं कि ये कौन सा वाला एटीपी का पास में भी करते हैं। और आई गेस पूरा कंप्लीट करने की कोशिश करते हैं कि ये कौन सा हम कर रहे हैं, फरवरी मार्च 2025, राइट। स्टार्टिंग विद पहला जो क्वेश्चन आया वो किसके ऊपर आया, दैट्स क्रोमेटोग्राफी के ऊपर ना। तो उससे क्या है कि inks contain different colored substances called dyes. A student used chromatography to investigate the color dyes contained in six different inks. So the student drew a baseline on the sheet of chromatograph paper. The student then placed a spot on each ink on the chromatogram paper and set up the apparatus as shown. ठीक है. The student made two errors. Uh, बताओ what are the two errors? सामने नजर आ रहे हैं. What are the two errors? Chromatography is trying to do chromatography. What are the two errors? क्या errors है?
तो सॉल्वेंट वो जो पेपर है वो सॉल्वेंट को टच नहीं कर रहा वाटर को।
ठीक है, तो पेपर क्रोमेटो, ये इसमें पेपर का नाम क्या रखा हुआ था, क्रोमेटोग्राफी पेपर, ठीक है। तो क्रोमेटोग्राफी, एक तो हो गया पेपर इज अबव द सॉल्वेंट, ठीक है। इट्स नॉट इन कांटेक्ट विद द सॉल्वेंट। अच्छा सेकंड, व्हाट्स द सेकंड एरर? क्या है सेकंड एरर? वो भी सामने नजर आ रहा है, व्हाट्स द सेकंड एरर? ज़ैनब, नबीरा, ज़रार। सेकंड एरर, व्हाट्स द सेकंड एरर? ज़रार, कोई नहीं पता सेकंड एरर, व्हाट्स द सेकंड एरर?
सर इंक इंक के ड्रॉप्स हैं ऐसे बेस लाइन पे नहीं होना चाहिए, बेस लाइन से नीचे है।
हाँ ठीक है, तो ऑब्वियसली वो फिर द आरएफ वैल्यू इज गोइंग टू बी, क्योंकि ऑल आरएफ वैल्यूज आर कैलकुलेटेड यूजिंग द बेसलाइन, ठीक है। तो इंक स्पॉट्स शुड बी, क्या लिखें, इंक स्पॉट्स शुड बी, या ड्रॉप्स शुड हैव बीन ऑन द बेसलाइन। सॉरी, अभी अभी आवाज आ रही है?
जी सर।
अच्छा, नेक्स्ट वन इज state the name of the equipment used to draw baseline in chromatography paper.
लेड और
अरे
ग्रेफाइट पेंसिल।
ठीक है, ग्राफाइट पेंसिल। ठीक है, और वो उसकी मतलब वो पूछेंगे व्हाट्स द रीजन व्हाई व्हाई ग्राफाइट पेंसिल इज यूज्ड, तो व्हाट्स द व्हाई डू यू यूज इट?
इनर्ट होता है, रिएक्ट नहीं करता।
इनर्ट नहीं, इट डजंट डिसॉल्व इन द सॉल्वेंट।
सही सर।
As a student corrects the errors and then carries out the chromatography, the chromatogram shows the student's results. Identify an ink which could contain only one color dye. तो easy है इनमें से, which one of these has one color dye?
ब्लू और येलो।
हाँ ठीक है, तो येलो or blue. Deduce which ink could be mixed with the blue ink to make the black ink. तो black ink,
ऑरेंज।
हाँ ठीक है, तो black ink, blue is this, right? So you need these two. These two can come from orange. I said, deduce the color of one dye that is contained in all three of the orange, green, and black. Which dye is present in all three? Which color is present in all three? Orange, green, and black. Orange, green, and black, huh? What's the common color?
येलो।
ठीक है, वो ये वाला spot है, this is common to all three, and that's basically yellow. ठीक है, that one is yellow. अच्छा फिर, अच्छा next is कि there's a, as a student investigates the temperature change when aqueous copper sulfate reacts separately with two different metals. ये वो displacement reaction है, two different metals, zinc and iron. So remember, copper sulfate, copper is less reactive. Zinc is higher up in the reactivity series. So when copper reacts with zinc, it's going to displace it. It's going to form zinc sulfate, and the copper is going to get knocked out. And similarly, if you have iron, it will do pretty much the same thing. ठीक है, you'll have copper sulfate, and iron is more reactive than copper, so iron will also displace it. ठीक है, and it's going to get displaced. Now the question is the question तो पढ़ा ही नहीं है, student investigates the temperature change. So it's an experiment that is about temperature change. The two different metals, zinc and iron, 50 cm cube of measuring cylinder to pour 30 cm cube of copper sulfate into a beaker. So copper sulfate is present in both experiments in a beaker. और कितना ऐड किया हुआ? That's 30 cm cube of copper sulfate, right? So it's present in a beaker. And thermometer to measure the temperature change of the contents of the beaker. This is temperature T is equal to 0. So he's measuring temperature, adds 3 grams of zinc. At the same time, starts a stopwatch, uses the thermometer, continuously stirs the mixture in the beaker. Measures the temperature of the mixture every 30 seconds for 210 seconds. Then he's constantly measuring the temperature, and he's probably going to repeat with iron powder. The same process is repeated. Now he's going to give you two different experiments, one with zinc. The first one is probably with zinc, and the second one is with copper. Now, what's important is okay, when you take down readings, make sure your readings, and this is about ATP, make sure you remember this. Your reading should always it will always have one extra decimal place. मैं वो बता रहा हूँ कि, for example, if you look at this value, the graduations, you can see the thermometer, right? ये नजर आ रहा है, the thermometer over here. Taha, can you see it? Zara, Nabila, Zainab? Can you see the graduations?
यस सर।
I said, now if you can see the graduation, so they're not in decimals. I mean, this over here is 21. You have 22 and 23 and 24 and then 25. TK. So they're all whole numbers. I mean, the graduations are all numbers. This value over here is exactly 24. TK. There is no decimal. Like, remember, whenever you're taking readings from an apparatus, so add one extra decimal place. Okay, yeah, or the easy way is okay, if they give you the amount of decimal places that you have to write, make sure you follow that. ठीक है? तो ये अगली वाली बताओ क्या है? What's the next one?
33.0.
ठीक है, तो वैसे वो नहीं इसको गौर से देखो, इट्स नॉट 30, इट्स नॉट एग्जैक्टली।
33.5 से
हाँ, बीच में ना, इट्स समवेयर इन द मिडल, ठीक है। सो दिस वन इज 33 पॉइंट, दिस वन इज 33.5। अच्छा, व्हाट्स द नेक्स्ट वन? दैट्स 38,
38.
और वो डॉट जीरो कर दोगे। अच्छा, द नेक्स्ट वन इज
41.5.
हाँ, फिर से इट्स आई गेस समवेयर इन द मिडल, सो दैट्स 41.5। अच्छा, दिस वन इज ये तो एग्जैक्ट आई थिंक, क्या, 42।
43. 43 sir.
हाँ, 43। ठीक है, दिस वन इज 43 and the next one is 44, and what's that, 43 again, right? तो जल्दी से, it's this is 42.0, ठीक है। And the temperature change since time t is equal to 0. T is equal to 0 is this one, the first temperature change that he took. The value बता दो, this is 24 and 33, that's probably going to be 9.5, ठीक है। 24 और 38, ये सही वैल्यूज जल्दी से लिख लेते हैं, ये कैलकुलेटर की तरह। अच्छा, change 9.5, this is going to be 14, ठीक है। The next one 41.5, and जो change in temperature since the first reading, that's
17.5.
ठीक है, वो 17.5 है। उसके बाद अगर ये ऐड करो तो 19 हो जाएगा, ठीक है। दिस इज गोइंग टू बी 20, ठीक है। और फिर you're back 19 and then you're back to एक और कम करो तो 18, राइट? ठीक है। सो एनीवेज, you have the delta t now, this, अच्छा ये वाला क्वेश्चन, this is like very very easy, तो I'm just going to do the first one, ठीक है। अगर दूसरे की जरूरत पड़ी, you have to plot, अच्छा, you have to plot a graph. तो how do you plot a graph? उसने he's already labeled everything, ठीक है। one side is temperature change and the other side is the time in seconds. So I'm pretty sure you can label this कि एक साइड पे temperature change है and the other side you have time in seconds. So they're just going to ask for simple things. ये वाला हम बाद में ही कर लेते हैं क्वेश्चन, ठीक है। कि we'll come back to this one, कि इसमें most of the time they just ask for a graph. कोई इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें पढ़ लेते हैं। प्लॉटिंग द ग्राफ इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी एन इशू। इसमें द ओनली थिंग यू हैव टू वरी अबाउट इज कि यू हैव टू रीड केयरफुली कि भाई ये कर्व्स हैं या क्या है। सो दे आर बेसिकली कर्व्स ऑफ बेस्ट फिट, ठीक है। ये क्लियर है जरा?
तो इधर मसला आता है इस वाले क्वेश्चन में पर्टिकुलर, लाइक
हाँ,
प्लॉटिंग सही हो, लाइक ग्राफ वो जो ऊपर वाला टेबल है ना ये सही फिल हो जाता है, नीचे वाले में मसला होता है, इसके नीचे
तो
वाले क्वेश्चन
जीरो,
का।
टाइम जीरो इज जीरो, ठीक है। और टाइम 30 पे क्या है, 9.5 ना। अच्छा, सॉरी, इसने ना, अच्छा इसने ना, he didn't give you graduations on the y-axis, on the vertical axis. तो especially on the vertical axis, there's no there's no graduation. तो हमारी वैल्यूज जो है, द टेम्परेचर चेंज, ये मेरी स्क्रीन बहुत ज्यादा लैग तो नहीं कर रही?
नहीं सर ठीक है मेरे लिए तो।
अच्छा, खैर, कमिंग बैक टू टेम्परेचर चेंज, मैक्सिमम टेम्परेचर चेंज इज लाइक 20, राइट? हाँ, मैक्सिमम इज 20। तो it's you got 5 boxes, so I guess you're going to divide them evenly. बल्कि make this 5, this is 10, this is 15, and this is 20, ठीक है। Almost 70% of the graph must be covered. So that is your y-axis. अच्छा, at 30 you have क्या value? At 30 you have 9.5. So 30 पे you have 9.5, 30 is probably going to be this. And at 30, you have 9.5, which is going to be, क्या होगा? ये होगा. ठीक है, that is E30. अच्छा, going back, what's the next one? At 60, you have 14. So easy as 60. 60 is going to be, this is 60. 70, 80, huh? 60, you're going to have 14. 14 would be this one. ठीक है. अच्छा, और क्या दिया हुआ है? एक से इधर से. अच्छा, further values. So at 60, you have 14. At 90, you have 17.5. वो ढूंढना मुश्किल है 90 पे. So 90 is this one. And you have 17. This is 16. This is 17. 17.5 is right in the middle. ठीक है, that's this one. अच्छा, 120 पे you have 19. So 120, that's this one. 120 is कितना है 120 पे? That's 19. So 19 will be this one. अच्छा, 150 पे you have 20. So with a perfect curve बन रही है. And 180 you have 19 back again. So where would you have 180? That's this one.
सर
ठीक है,
इसमें प्रेडिक्शन का बाद में सवाल आता है
वो भी इजी. वो करते हैं अभी एक से. अच्छा, फिर फाइनली यू हैव 210 पे you have 18. So 210 is two boxes ahead. 18, right? तो 18 कहाँ पे होगा? 17.5 से एक ऊपर. चलो ठीक है. अच्छा,
तो ये
एनीवेज,
7 मार्च का सिर्फ इंडिया में होता है ना पेपर?
हाँ, पता नहीं यहाँ पे भी हो सकता है शायद. आई एम नॉट.
नहीं, हमारे सिर्फ 2 सेशंस होते हैं ना, एक अक्टूबर नवंबर, एक मई जून।
हाँ, ये भी शुरू हुआ है ना, ये तो. इट्स बिन 3 years ना. नहीं, एक्चुअली शुरू हुआ है 2019 से. कहीं शुरू हुआ है. अच्छा, ये बन गया अब. सो दैट्स योर. अब उसको स्मूथ कर्व. अच्छा, remember for smooth curve, not all points should be on the line. ठीक है, they should be close to the line and evenly distributed around the line. ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा, अब क्वेश्चन पे आ जाओ. what's the question? It says state पहले extrapolate the curve to reduce the temperature change since time to experiment 1 after 240 seconds. Extrapolate the curve for experiment 1 on your graph to reduce the temperature change since time t equal to 0 after 240 seconds. तो उसको you can extrapolate. I mean, you can further extrapolate. Extrapolate का मतलब पता नहीं, just to 220, 210, 240. Where would 240 be? It's going to be over here. अच्छा, make sure कि you draw these lines with a pencil, with a ruler. ठीक है, I don't have a ruler. अच्छा, ये यहाँ पे जाके this is the point and that's 15, right? So the answer to the first one is 15. Is this clear? ये clear है? Taha, Azrar, is this clear?
जी सर।
State which experiment 1 or experiment 2 is the more exothermic. Explain your answer. We didn't draw the experiment number 2. So the one that has more energy change, more temperature change, the higher it goes, the more exothermic it's going to be. ठीक है, clear है? Uh, we didn't. Second वाला graph किधर है?
तो सेकंड शायद इसी पे करना है, इसी वाले पे करना है।
अच्छा, वो दोनों इसी में बना रहे हैं. ठीक है. Well, the one that is higher up, the one that goes higher, that's the one that's more exothermic. ठीक है. Now, um, So you can plot the other one. As a predict temperature of the solution experiment 1 after 3 hours. Temperature after 3 hours. What will happen? ये tricky question है. Predict the temperature of the solution in experiment 1 after 3 hours. So after 3 hours, what would be the temperature of this experiment? But you know after 250 seconds, you know what the temperature is. What would be the temperature after 3 hours? What is it going to be? Siddharth? Taha?
टाइम्स को सेकंड में करके मल्टीप्लाई कर देंगे.
क्या करेंगे?
टाइम्स को सेकंड में करके मल्टीप्लाई कर देंगे.
नहीं वैसे 3 hours बाद. Let's say I do an experiment. ठीक है, let's say I burn a match. And the match will burn and it will heat up. And what will be the temperature of the match after 3 hours?
तब इसकी फिर कोई एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू तो नहीं आएगी.
लेकिन क्या होगी? What is the temperature of the match after? I'm asking you to burn a match after 3 hours. What is the temperature of the match?
सर वो आपकी आवाज बीच में ब्रेक हो गई थी. आपने कुछ लास्ट क्या बोले?
मैंने कहा I burn a match.
जी सर.
मुझे बताओ what is the temperature of the match after 3 hours?
कम हो जाता है.
मतलब क्या होगा after 3 hours? But after 3 hours, nothing would be happening, right?
यस.
So it will be exactly at room temperature. Clear है? And the room temperature was what, 24 or 22, right? So it's going to be, I mean, before the experiment started. So it's going to come back to, let's say, 24 degrees centigrade. You clear? Does that make sense?
सही.
Because I doubt that the reaction will go on for 3 hours. Okay, it's over in 210 seconds. Explain why using a copper container instead of the beaker would not be an improvement in the investigation. So explain why using
प्रॉपर
in
खुद रिएक्ट कर जाएगा.
no, copper is very unreactive. Okay, why is it not? I said remember heating experiments. Whenever there's a heating experiment, the number one source of error in any heating experiment that involves the thermometer is heat loss. So क्या होगा? Copper is a very good conductor of heat. So there's going to be a lot of heat loss. ठीक है? So too much heat loss to the surrounding. So the thermometer is not going to give you a very accurate reading. There would just be too much heat loss. So copper is a very good conductor, so that's a bad thing. Remember, whenever you have a heating experiment, you want it to be insulated. There has to be an insulating jacket. The lid has to be covered. Plus, instead of the beaker, even you should use a styrofoam cup. ये बात clear है कि heat loss experiment, the number one cause of error is heat loss. Is that clear?
जी सर.
Describe 2 changes to the apparatus that will improve the result of this investigation. For each change, explain why it will improve the result. तो वो मैंने अभी एक तो बता दिया कि change 1, use a polystyrene cup. ठीक है, so you use, क्या spelling है? Styrene? Spelling ही नहीं आता. Hopefully that is right. As a polystyrene cup, that's one. And uh, lid, and the explanation is to prevent heat loss. So that you get more accurate readings. The 2 changes to the apparatus. So that's one change. Can we change the whole beaker thing, right? And we put a lid, we prevented heat loss. Now changes to the apparatus. What was the apparatus that he was using? If you go back, So the apparatus that he was using was, I said, number one, whenever you see measuring cylinder, okay, make sure remember that is by default an error. Okay, why is it an error? Because your measuring cylinders are not
Accurate reading नहीं आती sir.
हाँ ज्यादा accurate क्या होता है? You've got burette and pipette.
Wait,
Uh,
और puree.
हाँ लेकिन since this is a variable volume 30 cm cube, I guess you're going to use a burette in this case. Okay, so use a burette to measure the volume of copper sulfate. Okay, so burette is more accurate. Use a burette. कहाँ पे लिखना है?
तो
So
पिपेट में
use
वो लाइक लगा होता है आपका स्विच या उसके अंदर पिपेट में?
नहीं burette में तो टैप होता है. Pipette has a suction device at the end.
ऐसे.
ठीक है. अच्छा उसके बाद the next thing is कि अच्छा नीचे the explanation would be that the burette is more accurate, so less chance of more accurate than the measuring cylinder. अच्छा इस वाले पे we'll come to this is salt analysis. Now the good thing now is कि पहले ना this was not given. अच्छा this question is the easiest. Why is it the easiest? Because the entire answer is at the end. ठीक है, the test for anions, the test for cations, and the test for gases are all given, and the flame tests are also given. पहले, I mean, previously you had to remember all of these. तो अभी easy काम ये कि you just have to, I mean, they're given, you just have to look at the pages at the end. So a student tests two substances, solution A and solution B. Solution A is what? It's chromium 3 chloride. And so chromium 3 chloride, you know what the tests are. Okay, if you just go back, so if you go back, you would किधर गए back पे? Yeah. अच्छा, chromium 3, you know what the test is. The test is कि you're going to add NaOH, you're going to add NH3, and the result is going to be that you're going to get a green precipitate, which is soluble in excess, and you get a green precipitate in ammonia as well, which is not soluble in excess. So you know what the test is. And the other one was Cl ions, right? So for Cl ions, you also know what the test is. Okay, you add nitric acid, then add silver nitrate, and what you get a white precipitate. Okay? So basically, the answer is right behind. So all you have to do is you just have to उधर जाके you just have to fill the table, right? So to the first portion, he adds NaOH, right? Dropwise until it is in excess. So what do you observe? You observe पीछे लिखा हुआ है. You what do you get? You observe a green precipitate initially, and when you add NaOH, dropwise until it is in excess. So it dissolves in excess. ठीक है? Is this clear?
जी.
And to the second portion, he's adding barium nitrate, right? Now remember, that wasn't a test. वो जो test we saw, I mean, so nothing would happen.
No
So
change sir.
no change. To the third portion, he adds nitric acid followed by silver nitrate. ये वो test था Cl ions का. What do you
White
get?
precipitate बनेगा.
You get a white precipitate. ठीक है? And then then the second part of this question is that they don't give you what it is, but they give you the results. So first one, red colored flame, right? So go and have a look. Who's got the red colored flame? Corner red. That's वो लिखा हुआ है पीछे. That's lithium, right? So that one is, I mean, so that tells us that it's lithium. Clear है? और अच्छा, dissolve the remaining solution B, divide solution B into 3. He adds potassium magnate 7, so and you get a pale purple solution. So अच्छा, to the second portion. So first thing, potassium magnate 7. You go and have a look at potassium magnate 7. कहाँ पे नजर आ रहा है? Do you see potassium magnate 7? So it's over here. So what happens to potassium magnate 7? It changes color from purple to colorless. In our case, it remains purple, which means it's not, मतलब जो conclusion होगा, that's going to be that it's not sulfide because it doesn't turn colorless. So we go back and we write कि भाई it remains purple, so that means it's not sulfide. Because if it had been sulfide, it should have turned colorless. So is this clear? ये clear है? Zara, Saha, Nabila, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, to the second portion of B. He adds NaOH and solution remains colorless. So again, it's a failed test. Nothing happens. He gets solution remains colorless, so nothing happens. Warm the product of test number 3, and the litmus paper, the red litmus paper, remains red. So it's again a failed test. Nothing happens. Now to the last one, he adds nitric acid followed by aqueous barium nitrate, and you get a white precipitate. So what
You're
is
right, sir.
नहीं barium nitrate? Look at barium nitrate. Find barium nitrate. किधर है? Barium nitrate is given
The top पे होगा.
sulfate में होगा ना ये. Nitric acid followed by barium nitrate, right?
Right.
तो
तो
it's
lithium sulfide है,
हाँ तो
lithium
it's
sulfate.
sulfate and SO4 minus 2, right?
Yes, sir.
So this one is SO4 minus 2. So the last test is positive, and that indicates that it's sulfate. Describe how to carry out the flame test using. अच्छा, how do you, क्या किसी को पता है, how do you carry out a flame test?
So foil dip करते हैं ना solution के अंदर और फिर आप बंद बनने के बाद लेके जाते हो.
क्या डिप करते हैं?
कोई फॉइल होता है ना, आई बिलीव, जो solution में डिप किया जाता है, फिर आप उसके जो भी टेस्ट है वो कैरी आउट करते हो. एंड देन बंसन बर्नर के बाद लेके जाया जाता है
नहीं,
उस
एक तो
डिप फॉइल को.
फॉइल फॉइल भी हो
फॉइल
सकती है.
फॉइल फॉइल से. हाँ,
नहीं,
इनर्ट वायर, यस, इनर्ट वायर, यस.
inert wire dipped into solution of ions. ठीक है. अच्छा, फिर it's poured into the flame, but the flame has to be without color. जिसको I think there's a word used which is non-luminous. तो put wire in. Get non-luminous flame. Is that clear? Or okay, identify the ion that is tested for in test number 4. Okay, what is the test that's happening over here? Okay, damn red litmus paper remains red, and so which ion was he testing? Which failed? So again, you go back to which ion is it?
अमोनिया से.
Ammonia, लेकिन it's ion कौन सा? It's ammonium ion. ठीक है, ammonium ion is being tested. And finally, you have तो बस n में test for 4, and then he's identify the two ions. We already did that. Lithium ions and sulfate ions, right? So that's it. So this one is easy. I say वो आगे electroplating a spoon with silver. You तो exactly, we did this many times. You're provided with silver nitrate and metal spoon and a piece of solid. So how do you do electroplating? Okay, what is placed at cathode? At cathode, you will have the spoon. Okay, so the spoon It's a spoon. Let's say this is a spoon. Spoon is placed at the cathode, and your anode is going to be made out of silver. So this is made out of silver, and that's your spoon. And your solution will have silver nitrate aqueous.
तो एक्सप्लेनेशन के अंदर हम लोग ये सारा बस प्रोसीजर लिखेंगे इसका.
मेरे ख्याल diagram is सीधा बना लो. Remember, this is the cathode. Label everything. इसका इसे negative cathode. This is the positive.
क्वेश्चन नंबर
Anode.
4 जो है वो इलेक्ट्रोप्लेटिंग से ही आता है.
नहीं, वो किसी से भी आ सकता है. Anything that involves an experiment. अच्छा, distilled common laboratory apparatus. अच्छा, मैं इसका बताता हूँ because remember it's a big question. ठीक है, it's a 6-mark question. अच्छा, what happens over here? The Ag plus 1, the NO3 minus 1 goes to the other side. H plus 1 and OH ions, right? Who gains electrons at cathode? 1 mark would be for the equation. Okay, it's going to be Ag plus 1 that gains electrons. And that's how silver gets formed. And the other side, who loses electrons? It's the anode itself that loses electrons, right? So Ag is the one that loses electrons. सही है? अच्छा, अब ये कि now the question is, you have to add a few things because he gave you solid silver nitrate and distilled water. The first thing is you're going to make a solution. So extra points here होंगे, you make a solution. So you're going to write about dissolving AgNO3 solid in distilled water. The diagram itself carries a lot of weight, marks. And describe how a metal can be electroplated with silver, including your answer how you could determine the mass of the silver electroplated. अच्छा, एक उससे वो पूछा, how would you figure out the mass of silver electroplated? So measure the mass of spoon before and after the electroplating. And take the difference. Of finally, take the difference, वो भी लिख लो, ठीक है? So you're gonna get 6 marks about specifying where the spoon is. It's at the cathode. You're gonna get 1 mark for the anode. Making the correct diagram, writing the correct equations, ठीक है, that's going to carry marks. Dissolving silver nitrate in distilled water, that will also carry marks. And measure the mass of spoon before and after electrolysis and take the difference. That will give you marks as well. So I guess you're going to get 6 marks. Detail इसमें important है. चलो ठीक है. Zarar, is this clear? So Nabila, is this clear? We're done with this paper, ठीक है? We'll continue tomorrow then, ठीक है?